Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. I've got something a little different today. I'm gonna start a thoughts and impressions series, just a kind of a reflection of games that I've already played, mostly VR games. I don't know if I'll do every game, but probably I'll do every game. But if not, I'll definitely be doing the VR games for sure. But today, we're gonna be talking about Espire 1. I just recently finished that series on this channel here, and I just kind of wanted to talk about it. Just talk about some things that I liked, didn't like, and just some overall thoughts and impressions on it. So we'll start with some pros. Some things that I really did like about the series was, so it was an interesting concept. The whole VR puppet thing, I thought that was an interesting like attempt at immersion. I don't know if it really landed for me per se, just because it was I don't know, it just seemed odd that you're playing VR, but you're also a guy in the VR playing VR. So there's this sort of loss of immersion in there for me just because of that. There was this interesting part towards the end, if you've seen it, that where everything falls apart and the enemy hacks us, and oh no, we're all doomed, and you kind of snap back to like your office, and this like beam smashes through the glass, and like they just sort of cut to black on that, like nothing else really happens, like, oh, get out of there, and it's just presumed that you escape. But I didn't really I don't know. I don't know if that really took for me, but I thought it was interesting. I liked the idea. I liked the creativity there. Um, moving forward, shooting mechanics. So the shooting mechanics I thought felt really good. Just the way the guns felt, the way the guns handled. Little too much recoil on some of them. The rifle felt like it was just a little bit too impossible to control, even with two hands. And I feel like the two hand element should have assisted in that. The little SMG, even though it was two handable as well, but it just had way better recoil. TTK felt good on enemies. Like it was, I don't know, it was really satisfying when you just like, when you just ride the recoil up a guy and you just brain him and he flies over. It was cool looking, and it was fun, satisfying. It had a good touch, good impact. Combat just felt good in general. The game did well to create like this level of tension that I thought was really important. Just the way that they would talk around you, or the way they would mutter things. Sometimes it would just get a little intimidating. Footsteps and things. Yeah. I thought the game did a good job of creating tension with all of just the environmental sounds and the way it was presented. Relatively interesting story by the end too. Um, the problem with that I'll get into later is that it takes a while to get good. And then when it does get good, it's good for a very brief time, and then it's effectively over. But it was really good by the end. And there's a sequel coming, which is part of the reason I played this one on the channel. So we can look forward to that. I'm excited to see what that looks like. I will be playing that one on the channel as well once it comes out. This game had a lot of little cool experimental mechanics, like the ability to repair yourself, or the health mechanic where if you took damage, you had to stop and actually pull out your repair tool and repair these nodes on the unit. It was the idea that you were repairing the robot that you were controlling. And I thought that was a really cool like use of VR mechanics. That was a really good use of like, a really good sense of immersion in that. I thought that was well done and well implemented. It didn't really mess with the pacing. I thought it was fun to try to hide and repair yourself. Running and repairing yourself was, dangerous but possible. The ability to threaten and like boss enemies around, or hold up enemies as the game called it, I thought that was interesting, but it didn't serve a whole lot of a purpose. If it'd be interesting to see if they could expound on that, or if you could get the enemies to actually do things for you, that could have had some interesting implementations. But I don't know, it fell a little flat, but it was still neat. It was interesting to see the experimentation. It was interesting to see it done. I haven't seen that in any other VR title. The game had this Metal Gear Solid style like slow motion feature where if you'd get caught, then like it would automatically activate this slow mo, and you couldn't turn it off or do anything with it. It would just like drain your energy. That was a little frustrating, but it was interesting to see them implement bullet time in VR. I rarely used it just because I wanted to, feel the satisfaction of just playing the game in real time. I didn't want to just, walk through it and make it super easy with the slow mo. So I don't know. Maybe they need to up the difficulty to make the slow mo more viable or more needed. But as it was, I didn't see a use for it. But it was a fun feature to have. you could change Espire units on the fly, which was something we didn't do very often, and unless the game like actually made us do it. And I thought that was an interesting mechanic, but again, we didn't have a whole lot of reason to use it. And so again, interesting mechanics, I think very experimental, but just didn't really land, but I still thought they were fun to have. They were cool. Okay, so that's going to lead me into my cons. So, one of the ones that stood out to me is that just the game feels dated in a lot of regards. It just felt the game in for me was very reminiscent of GoldenEye 007, and I don't know why I keep going back to that game in reference to this one, but I just do. There's just a lot of things that remind me of it. And in a weird way, maybe that's part of what's projecting this concept of the mechanics on it were dated, but it just even in the world of VR, it just seemed like there were better things. Like I mean, and admittedly, there have been since then. This was a pretty relatively early VR title, so credit where credit is due. But to expound on that, the reloading and the climbing were just jank. The reloading and the climbing were just jank upon jank. My first experience with like climbing in a VR game was with Walking Dead Saints and Sinners. And in that game, it works quite well. And in every other game that I've played so far in VR, the climbing really hasn't been an issue. Espire is the first one where I'll be grabbing and it just drops me. And I don't know why it drops me. There's never an explanation. There's just this beep that says, you know what? Peace, dude. And it drops you. And there's just nothing you can do about it. And it's super aggravating at times. That one was a bit triggering for me. The reloading is odd. I I get it in VR. They want to give you something so that you can reload quickly, and this is very efficient for that. But it's not very intuitive. It doesn't feel very VR-ish. You just sort of swing your gun in a very specific manner, and it reloads itself. You don't really feel like you're doing anything. And I mean, with the shotgun, that was just, I couldn't figure that out. You just hold it down there and it just sort of slowly reloads. Like, no. Let me reload shells, please. AI and the enemy AI seemed a little bit funny. They would respond really well when you were up close, but then like at a distance, or if there was like anything at all between you, that it was like they couldn't see you. They were kind of blind, and in a stealth game, like they need to be a little bit more alert than that, I feel like. So there was some improvements there, I think. The narrative and the dialogue. Oh yes, we're going to talk about it. The narrative and the dialogue. The dialogue just they were going on, especially early in the game. They were just going on and on and on about the technological advancements and the nerdy know-how of this robot. And I'm like, boy, I don't care. Like, I can't imagine who would care. None of this is real. So why are we treating it so serious? Like, it was a bit much. There was a lot of fluff. And then, I mean, and a lot of it was repetitive. They would talk about the same things. This Mary system that they keep referring to like it's a person, but it's actually just like some sort of analytical AI system. I was like, oh my gosh, stop talking about it like it's a person. It's unsettling and weird, and I didn't care for that. I'm sure we'll get more of that in the second one, but I did not care for that at all in this game. And then, as I was talking about previously, I'd mentioned that the story was very interesting at the end. Well, it's pretty dry until the end. Again, they just spend all this time like talking about the logistics and like, oh, we're getting a good feed. Oh, but hang on, this isn't working properly. And I mean, it just goes on and on and on and on and on. And I tuned it out. Honestly, I tuned most of it out because I couldn't get invested in it. There was just too much of it that was just nonsense. By the end, it does get interesting, but all the just over involved narrative about the marionette system and Mary and the Espire units and the Espire system and all of it, it just got overdrawn. It got done out. By the end, the whole conspiracy and the whole like you're getting really close to actually like getting this facility back to the owners, and then like you're actually encountering the enemies. That started to get good, but then that's where the game ended. So I don't know. Again, this was an early title, so you can't expect too much from it. But and a lot of things it did right. It really did. I don't mean to sound too negative on it. I know that's my cons section, so it does sound like I'm negative. I am going to talk about an overall score because you got to have an overall score in these videos. For Espire 1, it's a good game, a little dated. I feel like for $30, it's a little high. You might catch it on a sale if you can, but it's a good adventure. If you've played through all the narratives that you have to hand and you're looking for something else, this is worth your time. You can have fun with it. It's not a very long adventure. I mean, I'd say like 6 to 8 hours tops to like kind of finish it. You can do more challenges and there's a lot of like side stuff you can work on, but I'm not really a completionist. That's not really my thing. I'm more here for the narrative gameplay. Overall, I gave it a 3 out of 5 because I thought that, again, it's a little bit of an older VR title and there's definitely been newer things coming out. I'm very excited to see what the second one's going to offer. So we'll definitely look forward to that. I'll be playing that on the channel, so stay tuned for that. Those are my thoughts and impressions on Espire 1. Thank you all so much for watching. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Let me know if there was something I missed or something that you thought was not talked about or something that you wanted to see addressed that wasn't addressed. Again, thank you all so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you all in the next one. Peace.